July 8, 1944, Normandy hedgerow country, 2 kilometers south of St. L. 30. 2 American soldiers lay concealed along both sides of a sunken farm road, weapons aimed at the curve 50 meters ahead. The position had been prepared since before dawn. Branches cut and placed. Firing lanes cleared. Bangalore torpedoes positioned to block retreat. Captain Raymond Hoch crouched behind the hedgerow on the north side, watching the road through a gap in the foliage. Behind him, Sergeant Vickers checked his watch for the 3rd time in as many minutes. No one spoke. Insects moved through grass. Somewhere distant, artillery fired. American guns, regular and muffled. The sound they were waiting for came at 10:35 hours. Diesel engines, laboring in low gear. Multiple vehicles, approaching from the east. Hoch raised his left hand, fist closed. Every man saw the signal. Safeties came off in near silence. Machine gunners adjusted traverse. Bazooka teams verified backblast clearance. A rifleman adjusted his grip, fingers white on the stock. The engine noise grew louder, steady, unhurried. Hoch's hand remained raised. His eyes stayed fixed on the curve. The first vehicle appeared. His hand did not drop. 1st Platoon Charlie Company had occupied the ambush position at 05:30 hours under direct orders from battalion. German mechanized units were withdrawing through the sector, using secondary roads to avoid main route interdiction. Intelligence indicated a pattern. Small convoys moving in daylight, exploiting American focus on larger concentrations. The road was ideal for ambush work. Sunken between hedgerows, narrow with sharp curves limiting visibility. Vehicle maneuver was impossible. Escape routes were minimal. The terrain funneled targets into a kill zone, approximately 60 meters long. Hoch had positioned his platoon in L-shaped formation. 20 men along the north hedgerow, 12 on the south, creating overlapping fire into the center of the road. 2 bazooka teams covered the curve from both directions. Machine guns were sighted to engage the length of the column. Bangalore torpedoes were buried at both ends of the kill zone, ready to create obstacles and trap vehicles inside the ambush. The setup had taken 4 hours. Hoch had personally checked every position. Sectors of fire were assigned. Target priority established. Armor first if present, then trucks, then personnel. Timing was rehearsed. Let the entire convoy enter the kill zone before initiating. Simultaneous fire from all positions. Overwhelming volume in the first 10 seconds. The platoon had conducted 3 similar ambushes in the previous 2 weeks. All had been successful. German casualties totaled 40, 7 confirmed. American casualties none. The formula was proven. Hoch had told his men the night before this was textbook work. By the numbers. No heroics needed. Just discipline and timing. When the signal came, everyone would know what to do. At 10:35 hours, the convoy entered the kill zone. Hoch's hand remained raised. The signal to fire did not come. Every man in 1st Platoon understood ambush procedure. Training had been repetitive since basic concealment, fire discipline, initiation on signal, overwhelming initial volume. The shock of simultaneous fire from multiple directions was the weapon itself. Individual marksmanship mattered less than coordinated violence. Field manuals were explicit. Ambush success depended on 3 elements: surprise, coordinated fire, and immediate maximum casualties. Hesitation or piecemeal engagement surrendered all advantages. Once initiated, ambush was total. No warning shots, no gradual escalation. Hoch had drilled this into the platoon since taking command in May. He was methodical, not aggressive. He planned thoroughly and executed without variation. His previous 3 ambushes had followed identical patterns. Wait for full target exposure. Initiate with machine guns. Sustain fire until all movement ceased. Duration averaged 90 seconds from first shot to silence. The men trusted his timing. They had learned to watch his hand, not the target's. When the hand dropped, they fired. The sequence was mechanical now, almost reflexive. Private Calloway, positioned with a Browning automatic rifle, had his selector on automatic, 20-round magazine seated, target in his sights. He was aimed at the cab of the lead truck, exactly as briefed. His breathing was controlled. His finger rested on the trigger. He watched Hoch's hand from peripheral vision. Corporal Mason, handling a bazooka, had the second vehicle tracked. Range was perfect. The rocket would penetrate easily. He had fired 8 times in training, 3 times in combat. Every shot had connected. This one would too. Sergeant Vickers, positioned beside Hoch, had his carbine aimed toward the rear of the emerging convoy. His role was to prevent escape, engaging any attempt to reverse or dismount. He had done this twice before. Both times, the efficiency had been complete. The convoy continued forward. 4 vehicles now visible, 2 trucks, a Kübelwagen, another truck, all German, all moving slowly through the narrow space. Hoch's hand stayed raised. Fist closed. Men waited. The lead truck rolled past Hoch's position. Engine rough. Exhaust visible in morning humidity. His hand did not move. The Kübelwagen followed. 2 occupants visible in front, neither looking toward the hedgerows. Hoch's jaw tightened. His breathing stopped briefly, then resumed. Vickers turned his head slightly. Not speaking, not questioning, just observing. The second truck entered the kill zone. Canvas sides, open rear. Hoch could see inside from his angle. His hand began to lower, then stopped. Calloway's finger tensed on the trigger. Pressure applied. Not enough to break. Waiting for the final ounce. The third truck passed the midpoint. The convoy was fully inside the kill zone now. Optimal moment. Every weapon could engage effectively. Hoch's fist opened. Fingers spread slightly. This was not the signal. The signal was a downward chop. His hand hovered, open, motionless. 5 seconds passed, then 10. The convoy continued forward. Hoch's hand closed again, slowly. It lowered to his side. No order was given. The lead truck reached the far end of the kill zone. It did not accelerate. It maintained steady speed. Engine laboring slightly on the grade beyond the curve. Calloway's sight picture shifted as his target moved past effective range. He did not adjust his aim to the next vehicle. He did not lower his weapon. He remained frozen, bar pointed at empty road where the truck had been. Mason's bazooka stayed locked on the Kübelwagen. The vehicle was centered in his sight. Range closing to point, blank as it approached his position. His loader crouched behind him, ready for reload command that did not come. The Kübelwagen passed Mason's position. He tracked it with the weapon. Barrel moving in smooth arc, following the target as it exited the far side of the ambush. His finger remained outside the trigger guard. Vickers shifted weight slightly, enough to glance at Hoch. The captain's face was angled toward the road, but his eyes were unfocused, internal. Vickers looked back at the convoy. The second truck cleared the kill zone. Then the third. Engine noise began to diminish as distance increased. The convoy was moving away, unaware anything had happened. Private DeMarco, positioned south side with an M1, finally lowered his rifle an inch. He looked left toward his squad leader, Corporal Patterson. Patterson's expression showed nothing. He did not acknowledge DeMarco. His own rifle remained aimed forward. 30 seconds passed with no vehicles visible. Engine noise faded to background level. The road was empty again. No one moved from position. No one spoke. The ambush formation remained intact, weapons covering vacant space. Hoch stayed behind his hedgerow. Hen now resting on his knee, His breathing was even. His posture gave no indication of distress or second thought. A full minute passed. Then, too, the silence that had preceded the convoy returned, but different now. Heavier. Questioning. Vickers finally leaned toward Hoch, voice barely audible. "Captain?" Hoch shook his head once. Short movement. Final. Hoch had seen the truck beds clearly as the convoy entered the kill zone. The angle from his position on the north side provided direct view into the rear of each vehicle. The first truck carried ammunition crates. Standard resupply load. Military cargo. Legitimate target. The second truck, the Kübelwagen, and the third truck were different. The Kübelwagen carried 2 Wehrmacht officers in front, both unarmed as far as Hoch could determine. No weapons visible in the vehicle. The second truck's cargo area contained 8 soldiers, but their posture was wrong. They sat slumped, not alert. Several had visible bandages. One had his arm in a sling. Another's head was wrapped in gauze. They were not armed. No rifles visible, no equipment. They stared ahead without focus, the hollow expression Hoch had seen before in men coming off the line. The third truck held more wounded, at least 10, some on stretchers laid across the truck bed. 2 men in medical orderly uniforms attended them. A red cross was painted on the canvas side, faded but identifiable. Hoch processed this in the seconds before his hand should have dropped. The convoy was mixed, 1 supply truck, 3 vehicles carrying wounded and medical personnel. Not a combat formation, not a tactical target. A withdrawal of damaged units and their injured. Doctrine was ambiguous here. Wounded in transport were still enemy soldiers. Medical vehicles marked with red crosses held protected status under Geneva Convention, but enforcement was inconsistent and verification difficult. German forces had violated medical immunity. American forces had responded in kind on occasion. The rules existed, but their application in hedgerow ambush work was undefined. Hoch had not been trained for this specific decision. Ambush doctrine assumed combatant targets. His orders from battalion were to interdict German movement. No distinction made between combat and support elements. But Hoch understood something beyond orders. This ambush would not accomplish tactical objective. Destroying wounded men and medical orderlies would produce casualties, but not combat effect. The enemy would lose nothing of operational value. The ammunition truck was significant, but not significant enough to justify the rest. More than calculation. Hoch simply saw the men in the trucks and recognized they were no longer functional soldiers. They were remnants. Breaking them further served no purpose he could articulate, but which he understood in immediate visceral terms. He chose not to fire, not because it was prohibited, but because it was pointless. At 10:39 hours, Hoch gave quiet order. Stand down. Maintain position. Vickers relayed the command in both directions. Men lowered weapons slowly, safeties re-engaged. No one asked questions. Discipline held. Hoch remained in place for another 10 minutes, observing the road. No additional vehicles appeared. The convoy had been isolated movement, not part of larger formation. At 10:50, he ordered withdrawal to previous position, 400 meters north. The platoon displaced in sequence, leaving no trace of the ambush preparation. Bangalore torpedoes were recovered. Branches were repositioned to look natural. Within 15 minutes, the road appeared unoccupied. First platoon returned to company position by 11:30 hours. Hoch reported to the company commander, Lieutenant Stamos, in private. The conversation lasted less than 3 minutes. Hoch stated that no suitable targets had appeared during the observation window. Stamos accepted the report without elaboration. No written after-action report was filed. Ambushes that produced no contact were not documented in detail. The operation was logged as reconnaissance in force, no enemy contact. At 1300 hours, 1st Platoon received orders to move to different sector. By 1400, they were 2 kilometers away. Establishing new defensive position, the ambush site was abandoned. Men did not discuss what had happened. Calloway cleaned his BAR in silence. Mason checked his bazooka optics without comment. DeMarco wrote a letter home that evening, but mentioned nothing about the day's activities. Sergeant Vickers approached Hoch once, late afternoon, while the captain was reviewing maps. Vickers said nothing, just made eye contact briefly. Hoch nodded once. Vickers walked away. The exchange communicated understanding without language. No record exists in 1st Platoon's operational logs of the cancelled ambush. Daily reports for July 8, 1944 show routine patrol activity and position maintenance. No enemy engagement is listed. Battalion intelligence summaries for that date make no reference to German convoy movement on the secondary road south of St. L. The information that had prompted the ambush order was fragmentary, based on local civilian reports, not confirmed observation. Charlie Company's war diary, maintained sporadically by company clerk, contains no entry for July 8, beyond noting the company's location and general defensive posture. Captain Hoch's personal correspondence home, preserved in family archives, includes no mention of the incident. His letters from July 1944 are brief, focused on weather and generalities. None of the 32 men present wrote about it in memoirs or interviews conducted decades later. Most never gave interviews. Those who did focused on combat actions, memorable engagements, moments of clear resolution. An ambush that did not occur did not fit narrative structure that veterans or historians sought. German records provide no corresponding entry. Wehrmacht units withdrawing through that sector in early July were fragmented, record keeping minimal. If the convoy filed reports, they were lost in the chaos of retreat or destroyed in subsequent fighting. The road itself saw heavy traffic in following days as American forces pushed south. Any indication of prepared ambush position was erased by vehicle movement and infantry activity. What did not happen required no casualty report, no investigation, no tactical analysis. It existed only as absence, a gap in expected violence. Hoch remained with Charlie Company until wounded by artillery in August 1944. Shrapnel in the leg, not severe. He recovered in England. Returned to duty in November, served through Germany. He was discharged in 1945 as a major. He returned to New Jersey, worked as a civil engineer. Married, raised 2 sons. He did not join veteran organizations. When asked about the war, he provided minimal detail. His sons knew he had served in infantry, that he had been wounded, nothing more. In 1982, one son asked specifically about leadership decisions under stress. Hoch paused, then said only, "You make choices with what you know at the time." He did not elaborate. The son did not press. Hoch died in 1991. His funeral included military honors, but no eulogy referencing specific service actions. Sergeant Vickers stayed in the Army, served in Korea, retired in 1960 as a first sergeant. He taught ROTC at a state university for 8 years. In those classes, he sometimes discussed ambush tactics, always emphasizing clear target identification and purpose of engagement. He never mentioned July 8, 1944. Of the enlisted men present, most returned to civilian life quickly after discharge. Calloway worked in a steel mill in Pennsylvania. Mason became a carpenter in Oregon. DeMarco ran a small grocery in Massachusetts. None maintained regular contact. By 2000, all members of 1st Platoon who had been at that ambush site were deceased. No reunions had occurred. No collective memory was preserved. The hedgerow country south of St. L was rebuilt in post-war decades. Roads were widened and paved. Field boundaries changed. The specific curve where 4 German vehicles passed unmolested cannot be identified today with certainty. An ambush that does not occur leaves no physical evidence, no shell casings, no blood in dirt, no burnt vehicles, no bodies. It creates no after-action report, no medal citation, no tactical lesson documented in training manuals. It exists only in the memory of men who held fire, and memory without documentation becomes uncertain over time. Did the convoy have 3 vehicles or 4? Were the wounded German or conscript foreign troops? Was the decision made in 5 seconds or 30? Details blur. What remains is only the fact weapons were ready, targets were present, and violence did not happen. On July 8, 1944, 32 American soldiers prepared to destroy a German convoy. All procedures were correct. All advantages were held. The moment arrived exactly as planned. One officer raised his hand to signal fire, then lowered it without giving the order. The convoy continued west. The platoon withdrew north. The war moved forward. No one was saved because no one was in danger until the ambush was set. No one was killed because the officer chose stillness. The outcome was neither heroic nor tragic. It was simply different than expected. Years later, no historian would note the absence. No veteran would claim significance. The moment disappeared into the vast catalogue of things that did not happen during the war. 32 men returned to position that afternoon and continued their assigned duties. The mission was logged as uneventful. The day ended. Silence absorbed the choice, and the choice dissolved into silence.